Brendan O'Connell, welcome back to the WP Minute.
Good to be with you, Matt.
My correspondent on the field for all things artificial intelligence and just a better face than Mark Szymanski.
Well, I don't know. That's a tough nut to crack, but thank you. Good to be here.
We're going to talk about some of the AI stuff today. Of course, you posted some new projects. You've always been in like the AI and automation space. It's sort of like where I've seen you. Put out a lot of great content over the last year or so. So I want to dive into some of the things you've been building with AI, get your general sense of AI, and do the whole pontificating thing, like good, bad, indifferent with this whole crazy world that we're headed down with artificial intelligence. Things don't seem to be stopping. I don't forecast that they will. I don't think we're going to have an NFT moment anymore. So like, where does this leave us in WordPress or web professional, web tech professional, generalists, whatever we call ourselves these days? One of the things, many folks who know that follow me, like I'm also in the podcasting space as well. Like I analyze the podcasting space as much as I do the WordPress space. And there's this other like really niche, like podcasting show that I listen to. It's called Podcasting 2.0. And they're the guys that run the Podcast Index. And I was on their show it was April, 8-ish months ago, April 2025. And I went on the show because I built something called podcastpower.cc. It's just like one of my little AI projects. And I built that at the time with Replit. And I think you know that I was all in on Replit at the time. Like I really, I loved it because it had guardrails and everything was like in-house. Like I could just do everything in-house. And that felt a little bit more comfortable to where LLMs were 8-9 months ago. And when they had me on the show, I've known them for years and I've been on the show before, but I was like, hey, I built this thing. And they're older guys. And they were like, they couldn't wrap their head around it. They were like, wait, you built this like seemingly complete web app. Like to them, they looked at it and they were like, oh, this thing is a web app. You built it. You're a developer. And I'm telling them, no, I'm not a developer. So there was like this, it was weird. Like they couldn't quite wrap their head around, like I built this thing without knowing technical stuff. And they were just like, oh yeah, this is a great app. Fast forward, I was listening to their show yesterday, or it comes out on Friday. So I was listening to it Saturday, and now they're fully in with AI. And one of the guys uses Gemini, another guy he's just got into Claude Code. One guy's more like a power user like me. The other guy is a true developer, the guy who's using Claude Code. And now they're having like this aha moment. They're like, look at what AI is one-shotting for me without like this whole back and forth. Like the stuff that I was doing that I can like, I hate using the one-shot analogy, but like the things I can one-shot now versus the things I had to like really wrestle with AI just 8 months, a year ago. It's pretty astonishing. So the first question is, where have you seen, or how have you analyzed that leap, if at all? Like, how do you feel like it's changed over the last year?
Yeah, I'm seeing that same thing in, like my, Twitter account outside of work, where I'm seeing lay people that were not exposed to any of this stuff are now suddenly building web apps and not considering themselves developers, but are now like dipping their toes into it and building, utility apps. And, it's kind of what we all thought might happen, is like the people that are not at all in this ecosystem, are not in this bubble of WordPress or even in the general development sphere, are now, kind of building stuff. And, that might be terrifying to people that make their livelihood in this thing. But, I also see people that are saying, basically we're basically reaching a point where we're not writing code anymore, but we're going to have to debug code, right? Because that's never going to go away. And yeah, I'm seeing the same thing that everyone else is seeing, the tremendous leaps and bounds, right? That are afforded to us in these latest models. I'm also seeing probably a shift away from the systems like Replit, like Bolt, like Lovable, in favor of going directly to the source, right? People are going directly to Claude Code. People are going directly to Codex. maybe something like anti-gravity from Google, and maybe not wanting those guardrails as much anymore, or maybe they're getting over that initial learning curve of these LLM systems and favoring going directly to the source. So that's kind of been what I've seen, and what that's been my personal experience too of like starting out with I canceled my Replit subscription, for instance, and now I'm only a month into Claude Code now, and enjoying it.
Yeah, it's wild from like a business perspective, and to get some kind of like outlook to where this is all headed, because like once I started doing the things I was doing with Replit, so I started with Bolt just as like a quick like timeline of things. Like the stuff that really had that aha moment for me was when I started doing things with Bolt. I was like, oh my God, look at this. Look what I could do. This is amazing. And this is like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I forget. Um, and then that's like when we had like this meteoric rise of like, oh, okay, everyone's talking AI and LLM and like, building stuff online with AI. And then I remember like Bolt did like I'm gonna forget who they brought in as like a DJ. They did like some like live stream like competition thing like after they raised a bunch of money, and then they brought in some like big headline DJ. Of course, I'm gonna forget the name. And they did like $1 million giveaway, and I'm like, what the hell is going? Like, just from like a business perspective, I look at that and I go, oh, okay, the bubble is here. Like whatever this is a bubble for at least for their business, right? And then I found Replit. It was a little bit more sane, but just like you, like I've been in Claude Code Max, not the $200 plan, the $100 plan, for like the last 4 or 5 months, and I'm like, I have a few apps running on Replit. I'm like, I don't need Replit anymore. Like I have to go and like cancel this. And I was thinking about that from like a business perspective. Like, man, these things just like are features to these big LLMs. Like, how do you see, or these bigger companies, frontier companies, how do you see that evolving? Like, do you think Claude and OpenAI and Gemini are going to try to solve what Replit and Bolt have been solving for the last couple of years? Like, do you think they're going to focus in on that no code person?
I mean, that's a good question, because at the same time, like, people are talking about like best practices with Claude Code, and it's open 5 terminals, and that is not your everyday person is not going to want to do that, and still doesn't really want to work in a command line, right? So and I watch a lot of, I don't say a lot, but I mean, I watch a decent amount of Claude Code content, and a lot of people are still just using the web app and are not in the terminal even. And so, it's a good question, because I think there's still probably a, a chasm between your more sort of hardcore developer types and your everyday person who just wants to kind of get apps up and running. But I think, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know, because is it really best practice to just have like 5-10 terminals running at all times? Like, that's better for your computer, but is it better for your end user? I don't know.
Yeah. For a while now, the whole like, and I'm still not bought into it. Like with even a lot of this stuff, even with, I am still very cautiously optimistic with all this stuff. The economics don't make sense to me. The intelligence of AI still doesn't make sense to me, even though I'm seeing and feeling it get better. I'm also kind of like, I don't really trust what's on the other side of this. Like, I don't know exactly what it's going to do. And even like the feeling of Claude Code and getting so much better is like, are you holding back? And I understand the answer is probably yes. Is like, are you holding back the good stuff? How much are you holding back? And are you holding it back just to jockey position between your competitors, basically? And you're all just kind of just like staggering these releases. Like, I'm not going to give the best thing, because if we gave the best thing, then the other company might leapfrog us. And then what do we do? So they're all kind of like playing this game of like, I'll give you a little bit and then I'll take a little bit. I'll give you a little bit, then I'll take another. And to me, there's something there that's just like the economics still don't add up. And I truly feel by the end of this year, there'll be a Claude Code account for $2,000 a month. It'll be Claude Enterprise, whatever. What are your thoughts on like the pricing
Yeah.
and how these guys compete with each other?
Well, no, I think you're definitely onto that for sure because have you used the terminal command to see what your actual usage on Claude Code is?
Yeah.
Is it just way higher? I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it feel like I don't get that rate limit too much, but yeah, I'd say like 20% of the time I'm hitting that by the like midday. It's just like, okay, you have to wait.
Yeah. No, I mean essentially Claude Code is subsidized by Anthropic, right? I mean, it's a loss leader for them. And I don't think there's a single profitable AI company. I mean, unless you consider Google. But I mean, I'm sure their AI is losing the money, right? Because I think, like any other SaaS company, they're trying to get a lot of users onto their platform, and then they're going to jack up prices. I think that's probably what's going to happen, right? Because I think you're right. They're gonna get they're going to try to reach that point where they're going to jack up prices to $2,000, and it's still going to be a lot of people using it because it's still cheaper than hiring developers. And yeah, I mean, I do worry that there's going to be a lot of vendor lock in on this stuff because all the code on the internet's going to run through like 3 companies now. It worries me for sure because I don't think people don't like to think long term at all. And, I think that it's gonna potentially blow up in people's faces and they're gonna start getting these giant bills, and not gonna like that. And, I'm actually only on the $20 a month Claude Code plan for a couple reasons, and one of them is to not become too reliant on it. And one of them, part of that is also to like we're not going to get any better if we just are letting the AI just do everything for us. So one of the things I tell people is like just start with the $20 a month plan because first of all it's cheaper and you're going to hit the rate limits a lot faster, but what you're going to do is you're going to force yourself to commit a lot of this stuff to muscle memory, and that's the only way you're going to learn this stuff. Because if you're just, not even watching what's going on when you're typing to it, and it's just you're having it run all your terminal commands, you're not even learning how to do basic Git stuff or basic npm run dev stuff, like you're going to be so far behind when they jack up those prices and you can't afford them. So, I just tell people like, hey, just you're going to save credits if you just start with the $20 a month plan and you force yourself to commit to muscle memory some of those very basic things. And I think that's going to be better in the long term for some of these people to actually learn some things. So
I know what I was saying before is you're really putting out like a lot of great automation content like N8N. Has that shifted your thinking at all? Because I felt like, whatever, if you rewind 5, 8 years ago, like Zapier, that was it, man. It was just like if you want to automate something, you want to connect one service to the next, Zapier all day long, and then Make, and then N8N, and now it's just like people are just going to have their own agents create whatever like basic automations they were using Zapier for. Have you found like that conditional logic thinking, if I can use that phrase, have you started to port that kind of conditional logic thinking over to, I'm just going to build it with Claude now or whatever, instead of like a tool like N8N?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say my usage of N8N has gone down significantly because of it, because I feel like that whole paradigm has shifted a lot because it's definitely easier to teach someone and to learn how to do node based like visual automations, and it's certainly, yeah, it's definitely easier to get it up to speed and to teach yourself about APIs and about agents and AI in general. But you reach a wall pretty quickly, and not so much that, but also it's just it's a little more sustainable, I think, to just build and more flexible to just build directly with with VS Code, honestly. And so I've built a couple AI agents with just API keys and Python scripts and HTML and CSS, and it's like, like that's it's kind of the way to go. And once you also like, I would say, graduate past N8N school a little bit, that's what like the developers are using. They're using code and they're using scripts and they're using APIs. And there's nothing wrong with using N8N. It's a fantastic product, and like it exists to fill that need in the market. But yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of this stuff is going to be running on either on people's local computers or in the cloud or things like that. Yeah.
One of the things I did recently was I built a whole podcast plugin with Claude Code. It's called Podloom. You can find it at podloomplugin.com. And that website that is there, I just did a live stream the other day with Matt Cromwell talking about it. And whatever, this is a side thing. And I knew I was doing the podcast with Matt, and it was just a super busy week. And I'm like, I need to get a landing page up. And I literally don't even have time for WordPress right now. I literally have no time because it's just so busy. And the podcast episode is coming up. So I just had Claude take all the, as I develop the plugin, there's a few things that I always do is like when I ship a feature, air quotes, I have it write the documentation for it, how to use it, how to understand it, and write a marketing blog post for it as well. So I just run these two different tasks, and it kind of builds both of those. So I said, look at the docs folder, look at the marketing folder, and build the website, including like a simple docs page, a simple support page, and all the marketing pages, whatever. So, and I wanted just HTML, CSS, and a touch of JavaScript for the video player, and build this marketing site for me. And it wasn't a one shot because there's still a lot of crazy things. There's still a few things I need to fix. But a couple of hours of just in the terminal previewing what it built. Okay, mobile doesn't look that right. Change these colors, change these fonts. Go, and let me get back to work. I'm working. Take a look at the website. Check it. Okay, this is all good. Let's move on to the next page. Launch the next page. Go back to work. Wait. It's churning away, doing its thing. Go back and check it out. So a couple of hours of that, not like a couple of hours of critical thinking. And I got this quick, fast landing page, and I pull up Cloudflare and just launch it on the Cloudflare pages, right? Is that what it's called? Pages? The worker. Drag drop, right? No GitHub, no deployment
Free
chain.
hosting.
Yeah, free hosting. It's 5 static files, right? I put the video inside, and then like the cool thing I did was I put the video inside of the R2 bucket for Cloudflare, and by default, the Claude had used the HTML5 video tag to play the video. But I was like, it's kind of shitty. It's just a basic HTML player. Write me some basic JavaScript with a nice play button, a nice, scrubbable timeline. Make me a nice player. Here's the player, right? A few hundred lines in a JavaScript file, ship that sucker to pages, link it up to the R2 bucket, done, right? And you're just like, amazing stuff. So the first half of my brain goes, holy shit, what are we going to do about WordPress? Right? The longevity of WordPress, the desire to use WordPress when I can build something quick like that. The other half of my brain goes, wow, this is actually going to help WordPress, because now ultimately what I want is I want WordPress on the back end. I don't want to be chatting with Claude every time I need to make changes or to launch a blog post or to change prices or whatever. Now I start to think, this could be an opportunity to like build front end stuff fast with Claude and then transition to WordPress. Your thoughts? AI, WordPress, the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think WordPress is still a great back end for stuff, and you can still put whatever front end you want on it, right? I think that's kind of it's still got its strengths in that sense, right? It's not going anywhere. And I still and to your point, like about using it to spin up pages like that, like yeah, it's incredible what you can do, and you're probably underselling it. Like it's probably faster than that, like to get front end stuff up quickly. That it does kind of concern me a little bit how when I try to get AI to work with WordPress, it just seems to just kind of spin its wheels a little bit sometimes. However, the new Claude skills have been released a couple weeks ago for for WordPress coding. So the AI team is doing great work at WordPress and keeping this sort of at its forefront in terms of keeping that momentum going. So that's always good to have that. It, in terms of future of WordPress, in terms of keeping, yeah, I think in terms of having a back end, right? Like that's kind of what people forget. I think a lot of this stuff, like we'll get into this maybe when we talk about the thing I built, was like there's no back end for it, right? But you still need a back end for a lot of stuff, right? And so WordPress is still that. I think as long as it's it's still a fantastic content management system. And I think people forget that like you can't just have everything in a file system. You need to have a back end for stuff. WordPress is that.
And there's that thing of consistency. I think it was you and I that talked about this many months ago, but it was like that level of consistency. 10 out of 10 times when I install WordPress out of the box, it is exactly the same thing over and over again because it has no choice. It's a zip file from a certain period of time. And when I launch it, there it is. And I can do that 1,000 times in a day and it will be 1,000 times the same. Whereas if I do 1,000 requests to Claude Code, even if you have all the skills and project MDs in place, it is going to be different. And until that changes, we're always gonna have that level of consistency and what's the word I'm looking for? Like insurance or it's that kind of thing. Like we know the starting point with WordPress, whereas we don't know the starting point with AI at every single turn.
Sure. And WordPress has it has all those APIs built into the back end, right? It's got, and it has new ones that just 6.9 has all these new APIs that have come out that are well supported, well documented. They're going to be there for the future, right? That's why they've built the Abilities API to interact with LLMs to be able to support what exactly we're talking about right now. So,
one of the things I talked with Cromwell about, and like you said at the top of the show, like we might not be writing code from scratch moving forward, but we certainly have to either understand it or know to a degree. Like I'm not going to throw you into this bucket, but your junior level developer might be me. Like in the future, a junior developer might be me. It might be somebody who understands product, the end user, and not how to write code. But because I can take this stuff and get it ready for an engineer, but also think about the end user at the same time, which when you flip the script, generally engineers don't think about the feature, the big marketing feature, or how my users are going to use this and are they going to enjoy this. It's like, oh, I can optimize this and get it as fast cache hit rate to the server and all this other stuff. No, like we need to think about the end user first. And that might be a person like me in the future. And it had me really thinking about the WordPress space a lot because I've seen a lot of tweets about, oh, product management is changing and it's sort of like trending in the direction I just mentioned. But how many times have you heard like developers in the WordPress space go, I developed this plugin, but I don't know anything about marketing. I just can't sell anything. Like, I gotta shut this plugin down because I'm not making any sales, or I don't like marketing because it doesn't feel right. So it's just to me, it's an argument from a different angle. You see, I feel like, well, what's stopping me as the marketer to be able to ship code? You ship code, you can't market. I can market. Now I can, now I can ship code, and we could both be advancing it with maybe different cadences or different paths. And I think it's just maybe a different argument these days. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I think the capabilities, the sort of the leveling of the playing field, I think is there absolutely to maybe to some people's fear. I think it's a lot of people are getting pulled kicking and screaming, and yeah, you're right. It's like, are we writing code or are we all sort of becoming full stack developers slowly? Where it's not so much about what languages you can write with absolute proficiency, but really a big picture. How can you orchestrate and connect everything together And, maybe we'll see a bit of a pushback against that in the short to long term of like, how valuable is that? Maybe there's an oversaturation of that. That's kind of what I'm maybe a little bit fearful of, because we're going to have a lot of people like you and me that are really good at connecting any kind of database together, and oh yeah, like I can run TypeScript stuff and I can connect it all up with React, no problem, no big deal. But at the end of the day, like maybe there's going to be a little more niche needed in some of these areas. But yeah, I think it's overall it's a good development in that it's going to push people to uh, hone their skills and to force people, as you say, out of their comfort level of just like, oh, I'm not going to touch marketing. I'm not going to even bother with it. It's like, well, you're going to have to, because there's going to be people that are shipping some code that's going to be approaching maybe what you're doing, and they're going to be stellar at marketing too, because they've got a marketing bot that is cooking up whatever. Yeah, I think I don't know. It's an interest. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, no, it gets me down this other path that I wanted to talk about as well. I have this running challenge, or at least it's a running challenge in my head. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same for Justin, who runs Transistor.fm, but he put out a video many months ago about you know about a year ago or so, like when everybody's like, oh my God, like what's going to happen to the SaaS business? What's going to happen to the app development business because of AI? A lot of people going like it's just going to go down to zero and everybody's going to be able to build their own stuff like we were just talking about. We're going to have this flood of all of these solutions, et cetera, et cetera. Justin, on the other hand, feels like it's just never going to be that extreme because it's only going to be for the power users like you and I, who kind of know how to put the stuff together. And then even at that, sure, you and I can launch an app, a piece of software, but then it still has to win. Like you still have to do the marketing stuff. You have to distribute it. You have to get customers buying it, all that stuff. So AI is not doing that for you yet. So he's in the camp of like, that's never really going to compete. So my crazy theory is, how close does AI, do these AI companies want to converge on the operating system? So if you think about the timeline of operating systems ever since the dawn of time, you had core operating systems. They have printed money for Microsoft and Apple and Linux and Unix and Sun Microsystems, all these people. But there's always been an economy of app developers that go, the operating system doesn't do a word publishing system. Let us develop it, right? And like Corel Writer came about, or Lotus did the first word processor. And then Microsoft said, well, that's really good. Like there's a lot of people buying that. You know what we're going to launch? We're going to launch this thing called Microsoft Word, right? And like take that. And so you've had years, decades of fundamental operating systems at the core of these big businesses, apps being developed on top of it, and then them sitting back going, oh, this app's printing money, let's acquire it or let's compete with it. I wonder if AI becomes the operating system, and then you can literally launch any piece of software you can think of on the operating system. And to me, that's where this is all going, because it's about speed and necessity. And I think like you're going to be able to do that with a Microsoft and a Mac, where you can just go, I needed to do app, but I also wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and to show the pictures of my kids every time I check off a to-do item, which you can't buy anywhere in the App Store, but you can now develop it. And by develop it, it's not even being developed. It's just like you're talking to it and it appears on your desktop,
Right.
And I think that that's ultimately where we're headed with this stuff. Too crazy to think, or what are your thoughts?
I think that makes sense. And also, like, Apple's been pretty quiet in this whole AI, I don't know, flurry in the past couple of years, right? And we haven't really seen any kind of news out of what they're doing with AI. Their stock keeps going up, though.
They did partner with Gemini, so Siri is going to be powered by Gemini for X amount of years.
Okay, so I guess I missed that. So yeah, I mean, I kind of expected them to make some kind of release, maybe in this vein, where their app store is now AI powered, where you just kind of describe what you want, and that app appears on your on your phone or your tablet or your MacBook, and suddenly it's pulled in all your data, smartly because it's on your operating system, maybe. And maybe that's where we're headed. But I also wonder though, because it seems like these LLM companies don't want any. I feel like they want to separate the operating system, and they want to have everything in the cloud, right? So because that gives them ultimate control, and I guess there's also they need to have the super powerful systems in their data centers and stuff like that. So I don't know if that factors in there. I would love to have everything running locally on my super powerful computer and not have to rent Claude Code. I don't know if I feel like that it could be a possibility.
I mean,
But I don't.
and that could change. I mean, that could be the definition of operating system in the future, right? Like people will just go, and I think if anyone's going to try to do something like that, it would probably be OpenAI with that more like consumer focus. Certainly Google as well, where you log in to a site that you pay $50 a month for, and it just answers your email. You don't open up an email client anymore. You open up a dashboard of what this AI agent has done for you overnight. Like we responded to 3 emails, we deleted 3,500 emails. You want to see the 3 emails that I responded to? Yes, let me review them. And you're looking at, oh, we paid the bills for you. Like you log in, you go, oh, you paid my bills. Awesome. By the way, here's 3 pictures of your friend's kid. They had a birthday party yesterday. Here they are. And it's just, and literally it's like, it's doing everything that we do in tabs now or in individual apps now. It's like, let me check my email. Let me check my stocks. Let me scroll Instagram for a little bit. Let me send this message. Let me just make sure my bank account is ready to buy this car or whatever. And it's just like you're doing all of these things manually. I don't see a future where there's not one thing that just does that for you, because that's like, that is only the next step to increase productivity. Right. I'm not saying I'm for it either. I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm just saying, like,
dystopian. Yeah.
Speed. Yes, it's about speed. Look, have you seen this Claude bot thing that people are raving about?
I have. I saw. I don't have a Mac Mini, so I don't know how I'm supposed to run it. But
yeah, I know, right? Like you see that craze where people are like, they hear about this thing that will, like, just like what I just described. Like, I haven't used it, but from everything I read, it can do that for you. It can start to answer emails and check anything you can do with your computer. It can do it for you.
It can send Matt Madero's money, and
yeah, and people hear, like, all you need is like a Mac. Give it a Mac Mini. Buy a Mac Mini and let it run on that. And people just go, oh, that's a great idea. I can just buy this little box, right? So the human brain goes, I can buy this box, install that on it, and this box will just do all that. And the guy's like, hey, yeah, it's just that box is gonna do it for you. And then somebody, okay, I buy this box, I plug it in, I put ClaudeBot on it, and then off I go. People can't fathom going, let me just like install this on a VPS. The layperson just buys the box, plugs the box in, and goes, go box, go do my things. It's wild to see that stuff, happen.
Yeah, I have very little desire to do that. I mean, and that kind of comes back to, maybe I'm a bit of a Luddite with some of this stuff, because I'm like, I want to maintain a little bit of control over my life and have a little bit of autonomy, and not give it all up to, Terminator, whatever, T9 bot, and let it go to town and spend all my money and on flights I don't need, but want to go. I think people are increasingly too lazy to to think for themselves, and I get it. I mean, we're busy people. We all have to work too many jobs and wear too many hats, and we're looking for ways to offload things to our bots that scraped data that we built and was stolen basically. And we built this system and now we should be able to use it, right? So I get it, but yeah, I don't want to get too far off topic there. But
Yeah, and we'll transition to some of the stuff you built in a second here, but this is why I think you'll get the Microsoft, Googles, Apples doing the AI for you, if this makes sense. Like setting up all the cool stuff of AI on the phone, on the operating system. So even then the common person doesn't have to think, oh, how can I use AI? They're going to try, because they're all going to be competing with AI. So competition is going to go, oh, AI is baked in. Have fun with AI. But if you came to somebody and said, AI is baked in, look it's already running for you. Like, look at the things that we have set up for you. Like, you don't even have to think. It just does it. Look at it. It's right there. All your social feeds. You want to be a happier mood today? Drag the slider to the happier side of the meter, and we're going to only feed you the happy stuff. Do you want to see everything that's happening in the world? Drag that sucker right back down to the left and have fun watching this stuff. And it's just going to set it up for you. I don't have a better way to explain it, but I think these companies are going to say, we know that AI is still too complicated. So we're just going to enable these things and just let it run and watch you be fascinated. And I think that's where we head in the next 5 years anyway.
Yeah, and if I know anything about how humans have interacted and used social media, then I know that people are, maybe resistant to this whole walled garden approach, but they're going to go for it and they're going to buy it hook, line, and sinker. And they're going to be fine with giving all their data to one or two or three companies. And as unfortunate as that might be in the long term, that's going to be how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you've been building some stuff. I saw you tweet out some cool stuff that you've done around like YouTube and transcripts. And as somebody who makes a lot of content myself, I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. Let's get Brendan back on the show to talk about this stuff. Walk us down this path. What did you use? What's the tech stack? And then what can you show us?
Yeah, I mean, do we want to? Should I share some VS Code? Is that too
man?
Technical?
Like, no, let's dive in. I think the crowd wants to see how the sausage is made per se.
Okay. All right. Well, give me a second here to share it. I will share first. I'll share the front end, I guess, and then we'll talk a little bit about the back end. So I'll talk a little bit about the impetus for this. So basically, if you've used YouTube search, it's not amazing, and I've basically been wanting to find easy ways to search through transcripts of YouTube channels and to be able to find like particular timestamps of parts of videos, basically, because often I can't find the exact video itself, let alone like where in the video something is, right? So I built this that there's no back end to it. It's basically just Python scripts and vanilla HTML and CSS, and it's a scraper that scrapes YouTube channels and scrapes the YouTube videos and the transcripts, and then chunks them into segments, and we'll kind of go over what all that stuff means. And then it's just dumps it into a front end. So this is my own channel here, and I kind of reworked this from an initial MVP that I built like a week ago. But I can search like external API, and it'll find all the videos on my channel that mention that, and all the timestamps where I mentioned that. And it'll find like percent matches. So this is like, I don't know, the 55% match is like the most relevant video. And then sort of down through the less sort of, I guess, less relevant, but still relevant videos, right? This, was sort of a requested feature in some of the other support communities that I'm in. So this was something that I just kind of threw together in not that long, just like a couple hours, really. So you can click on here and it will take you to the exact timestamp in the video and scroll down to that part of the video.
It's fantastic. So it's embedding the original YouTube video and all of the relevant metadata,
Yeah.
pulling in the transcript. You can jump to that moment in time, that transcript. Does that also, if you click in that transcript, that'll also move the YouTube video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should. Yeah. So the
Yeah,
937,
937. Yep.
1018. Yeah. And then there's also a couple keyboard shortcuts. I can like press J to go back to the previous one. There's some UX stuff I probably need to clean up here, but because it like keeps scrolling down here, but nothing a couple sessions in Claude Code can't do. But yeah, so I mean that's basically it.
What is the front end of all of this using? Just vanilla JavaScript? Are you using some kind of framework? What's the
No, yeah, there's no framework here, no React at all. It's just HTML, CSS, and I think there's some JavaScript, probably just a little bit of vanilla JavaScript for the mobile menu.
Yep. And
but
for the
other
search,
than that,
and for the search, right? Being able to pull the transcript and jump to it
this here.
Jump to a transcript.
Yeah, exactly that. And then but yeah, it's not like there's like a React or Vue or anything like that. And then it's all just built at runtime. So like every day it scrapes using the YouTube API, and then it builds it with the Python script and dumps it into GitHub, and then builds it. So there's no database or anything.
So none of the transcript is in a database. When it searches, it's just searching flat files.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where's this hosted?
So it's actually, I've created sort of like a mini vector database within the GitHub. So that's how it's creating chunk embeds. So it's like 45-second segments of the transcript. So that's how it's able to get the timestamps, and there's 5-second overlaps or whatever. So it's created sort of a little vector database within. That's how there's like so many segments and not that many videos, basically. Yeah.
Mm. Did you go into it with that logic, or did you chat with Claude in like a plan mode to figure out like what the best approach was?
I did use plan mode. So, if you haven't used plan mode, definitely recommend using that before you start your project. Shift tab twice if you're using the terminal. And that's one of the reasons, again, to use the terminal. I don't think you get plan mode if you're just using the web app. But plan mode is pretty nice when you're getting started. But I did go into it thinking that I would need some kind of embedding model of some sort to like be able to, segment and to have some sort of embedding model basically for all that text, because if you're going to be searching huge amounts of text like that, and to be able to find related videos or be able to find content that's related, basically. Because I also if we go into another video, a lot of them show related videos as well on the side here, so it's also smartly finding content that's connected to one another. So that's part of what it's doing.
That's amazing. So when it scrapes and stores, you said it's storing on GitHub, or is it storing on the server?
It's storing on GitHub. Yeah. So I'll show the share something else here. So here is the scraper. So there's like 4 scripts that it's basically got here. You've got the initial scraper, and this is just getting the data directly from YouTube. And so it's getting using the channel ID from my config file here. So it's using my channel ID here, and then just basically scraping it, getting all that data, and then forming like the title, the description, when it's published, getting the thumbnail, all that sort of metadata from YouTube. And then it chunks the transcript itself is getting chunked in, and what that does is like splits the transcript into like 45-minute searchable segments and outputs that as just a JSON format with timestamps. And so what that looks like at the end, let's see if I can find an example here.
Before you show that, what was the logic between the 45-second segment? Is that something that you were like, oh, I think this will work best, or how did you end up on that?
I don't think I had much input there. That I probably
that was your employee.
That was my employee Claude, I think, that did that. But I mean, it's let's see, converting it into a timestamp, breaking the transcript into searchable chunks. I think that probably, I think it's basically just letting it do that, and I let it do its thing a lot of the time.
That's, because sometimes I go into these, I've done a lot of like what I would call scraping or aggregating apps like this, and I often make the mistake of, well, I certainly need a database. So then I'm starting with, let's start a database structure and let's build a schema and stuff like that. And when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh shit, like because a lot of the stuff was like podcast transcripts, which is exactly what this is doing, except it's video transcripts. And I was just like, well, now that I see this, I'm like, oh, I guess I don't need to have a freaking database and figure out how to run all that infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I think with something like a YouTube video where they're all sort of published already, they're not being edited, right? I mean, the transcript itself it can't be edited, in fact, right after it's published, right? So it's there. It's the other thing to keep in mind is like so this is like the second iteration. In fact, I'm not seeing my data in here because it's not being pulled into here. It's being well, actually, sorry, this is it should be, but I haven't run this one locally here, but so I can't show it, whatever. I can't show the data in here, but the videos would be in here. But the videos are, they're basically static, right? So, and you don't want to have to keep accessing them either, right? Because I also kept getting rate limited, and so like basically once they're stored as static files in your file system, then you're good to go. I mean, they're not being edited. You're not accessing them. That's kind of where I was at. And I don't know, I was kind of also messing around with Astro at the time too. So I was just like thinking in that mode maybe of just like storing all your files in GitHub. And so I don't know, that maybe was just a little bit of my own bias coming in.
And the site that we were just looking at, the live site, that is 100% on GitHub, or are you using Cloudflare for that?
That one is 100% on GitHub, and then I'm using Coolify to deploy it onto my VPS. And so my first iteration was pushed into Cloudflare Pages, and one of the issues I ran into is that YouTube API does not like using GitHub Actions to scrape. And so that was one of the things I learned, is that you can't really run scrapers reliably on GitHub Actions, or at least you can't run YouTube scraping on GitHub Actions unless it's a public repo, I think. And so some days my scripts were failing, and so that was one of the things I came out of this whole process was like, okay, well, and so this, before we met last night, I was like reconfiguring this to run as a Docker file. And so that's what we're seeing here. And that's why I have like this config YAML and like this Docker file here. And I'm using a different service called Superdata, which lets me scrape with a remote proxy all the YouTube files. And so that's how I'm able to get past that, because when I was just using Cloudflare Pages, which is not on a VPS, which is totally free, I was running into that scraping issue with the IP. So, these are some of the things you can't just I don't think there's anything such thing as one-shotting anything. Or if you
No,
think
maybe.
you are, you're going to run into some issues down the road because, yeah.
When you say scrape, are you actually scraping in the sense of like it's crawling the site and accessing the transcript and then storing that transcript, or are you using the YouTube API and then just hitting those endpoints and pulling that in?
No, yeah, it's just using the YouTube API
Okay, okay,
to scrape, yeah. So not
yeah,
scraping the actual site.
because my mind goes to like another popular AI app, Firecrawl, to do scraping, which is really cool. But
Yeah,
it's like,
love Firecrawl.
yeah, scraping in the sense of like it, goes through the site and pulls all the data, like, without an API or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and that might be another way to get around the YouTube API proxy stuff because YouTube's notorious for pretty strict rate limits, and in fact, I was also getting notices like if you keep doing this, you're going to be permanently banned from YouTube or something like that. So
Claude said that to you, or that was a response you got from the API?
that was a response I got from the API, directly in here. I don't know if that's just them giving very strict warnings or but anyway, just, it's good to read your error logs very carefully, because you don't want to get banned. But I mean, I think it's to prevent stuff like this. I'm not the first person to try to do something like this, right? And I'm doing it pretty respectfully. I'm only scraping, 100 videos. I'm sure there's people trying to scrape
Yeah,
the
for sure.
entirety of YouTube. So yeah, that's kind of, yeah. So you learn about these little caveats and these little things here and there. So
As you go about building this, like especially when you put your other one online the other day, the one that I saw, and then like you said before we get on this call, you kind of reworking it to kind of Dockerize it or whatever. Do you prompt Claude to go through and document the code? I know I do when I'm building a plugin. I'm like, make sure we're documenting this code because when I go back, I want to be able to understand in each file like what Claude's logic is so that I can fully understand like here's the working process.
yeah, and it's funny because it updates everything in the code except the README sometimes, which I find
Mm-hmm.
interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
at the end of that session, I was like, okay, you've updated everything in the project except the README. So I had it go through and and update the README. So now it says, okay, in this project, there's a config YAML, and here's how to change everything. So if I want to duplicate this project and run it on the WP Minute, we could do that, and here's how you would go and change that stuff. And okay, I want to change the channel ID and give it the slug, and then type out the full name, and then okay, all we need to do is our only secret is the YouTube API key. That's the only thing we really need, and then we just run our 4 scrapers. We have the scraper, and then we run the chunk for the search, and then we generate the embeddings of the searches, and then we build the HTML templates from all that data. And then if you want to view it locally, you do that. So
Yeah.
is that kind of what you mean with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's a good breakdown. Did you pick Python or did the system pick Python?
I would have picked Python too. I mean, LLMs love Python
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
And I love Python now. I mean, I've always kind of had a soft spot for Python. I mean, anyone who loves automation stuff, you're gonna love Python. Um, Python's a great language. It's pretty easy to understand, I think, too. Uh, once you just kind of look at some of the scripts, once you have also make sure you get all the extensions for Python so it color codes things. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to
Yeah.
understand. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wait, now that you've completed this, how would you, if somebody said that, hey, Brendan, I want you to do this for me. They said this to you 6 to 8 months ago when your superpower was N8N. Would you have been able to do this with N8N? Difference of how you would have approached it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I did do something similar, but just not as long or not as in depth or anything like that. And I think yeah, that's a good question because I think I would have been able to get the data fairly easily, but I think I would have struggled with like, well, now how do I get this into a front end? Because I think I could get this into Supabase. I could get this into some sort of database of some kind, but then then it's like it's in a database, I guess. And, then I'm looking at using some sort of, actual front end language of some kind to get that in. And it's kind of an overkill at that point, I think.
Yeah. 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 This is fascinating stuff. I mean, I think I've built something like Pulse WP, which was another experiment of building an aggregator for, WordPress RSS, and then like building other metrics on top of that, like publish date, publish count. That's all database driven. So I'm storing freaking everything in a Supabase. I actually just like triggered in my head, like, am I still paying for that Supabase database when I said that? And I think I am, but I'm certainly not going over like the base limit because I haven't got any warnings that I've hit a cap. So, but there's thousands of articles in there now, and I store all the content in the database of all the articles because I was like, how else am I going to show the database in the front? How else am I going to show the article in the front end?
Yeah.
But I think what you and I are building are things that are like this is it's I don't know how to frame it, but it's like this is our content, like the YouTube stuff. Like it's our content, it's our video, it's our transcript. YouTube's never going to present search transcripts the way that you've presented it. So wouldn't it be awesome if anybody could build this, right? Like it's your content. This is based off of your words. Like you don't own the video platform, but it's your stuff. And this is one of the things I like about AI is I can build an interface for my YouTube channel. You can build an interface for your YouTube channel. Like to me, that's the future. And like everything underneath is just like the infrastructure.
Yeah.
I don't have a good way of describing that, but I think it's powerful, like to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah, and it's just kind of using the existing technologies that have been around. I mean, Python's been around forever. And the YouTube API has been sitting there for forever. And but the only reason I was able to do this is Claude Code, really. I mean, I think I probably could have figured something else. And I've kind of built things, again, it's kind of similar to this, but being able to execute this in the amount of time I was able to do just wouldn't have been, this would have taken me months, and a lot more trial and error. And, you could say I cut corners, and I absolutely did. But I learned a lot too at the same time. And I think that's where I see the real power in tools like this is like, if you do have some knowledge, it's going to accelerate you even more.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else that you want to show off back here?
I mean, that's it for this project. I mean, I think there's some other stuff cooking up, I'm sure, but that's that's it for that. Great. I mean, I think that it's cool to like this project was totally different 24 hours, 16 hours, 12 hours ago. Like I had to rework it because I was like, wait a second, I can't show Matt and everyone else this kind of broken thing. I need to rework it, and let's Dockerize it. Let's get it working on a subdomain. Let's forget about Cloudflare pages. Let's spin up another proxy IP. Let's solve this problem a little bit. And it's working.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome, man. Excited to see like what else you develop with that stuff, and then we'll get you back on when you launch your next AI project. See where that's at. I love, I love Claude Code stuff. Again, cautiously optimistic. I did the other day when the Make team released a blog post about the React components for the data. Is it data tables UI? I'm forgetting the phrase. And
data
I went
views
in
or something.
Data views. That's right. Data views. And I was just like, literally. And you could call it cutting corners. You could call it inexperience. You can say all that stuff, and I would agree with you. But again, in the middle of the workday, like I'm busy doing other things. I was probably in a meeting. I opened up another Claude Code tab, I said, read these 2 blog posts, which were the 2 make blog posts about the data views and all this stuff. And I said, build a skills file or whatever I said, build a skills for taking an existing WordPress plugin admin and converting it to the updated data views and all this stuff. There's probably some more meat to that context. It scanned the 2 blog posts, it built a skills file, and then I copied my plugin folder into that Claude Code instance, if you will, and I just said, convert the admin to this, and I ran it, and it ran for like 20 minutes, like going through all the admin, like changing everything out, and at the end, I installed that new version of the plugin, and without any errors, it worked. It didn't look right, and that's, you know, the stuff I would have to go in and fix. But when I clicked into that admin, it was all React base. It was using all the new like UI stuff, and like some things weren't aligned correctly, but I was just like, I didn't even put any thought into this other than read these 2 blog posts, build this skills file, now run the skills file against my folder. It's literally anything you would have told, like if you were my developer on that plugin, I would have said, hey, Brendan, I want to switch over to the data views. Here's the 2 blog posts. Read these blog posts and let's get to work, baby. Like,
yeah, except it would have taken me a few hours probably.
Yeah, to read the blog post, right, and come up with a plan and all this other stuff. So,
yeah.
Anyway, it's a fascinating world.
Exciting times.
Yeah,
times
that we're in. Listen, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm saying right now that we haven't realized the actual cost of it yet, in both the economics of the world and the environment and how it hits our wallet. But right now, learning it and understanding it is somewhat paramount to me anyway. Brendan O'Connell, where can folks find you to say thanks?
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Brendan O'Connell WP. I think it's the same on Twitter. My website, brendan-o'connell.com.
Might have to switch it to Brendan O'Connell AI pretty soon, those handles.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out today. Everybody else, thewpminute.com. Thewpminute.com/subscribe is the #1 way to stay connected. See you in the next one.